Billy took care of Sandy, who had paralysis in both legs, for 3 years. In their first year of marriage, Sandy couldn't stand him. Just touching her legs got him locked out of the house for 99 days. In their second year, Sandy was indifferent to him. Billy massaged her and helped with her rehab daily, but never got a response. In their third year, Sandy finally got better. But now, she wants to pick up her ex-boyfriend from the airport. "My legs are good now, Gary. Come back. I'm picking you up myself," she texted. Seeing the familiar name, Billy's initial smile froze on his face. He always knew Sandy didn't love him. She only ever loved her first boyfriend, Gary. 3 years ago, when Sandy and Gary graduated college, they parted ways. Sandy stayed to inherit the family business, and Gary went abroad to chase his dreams. Despite the split, Sandy never let go of Gary. Then Gary had a sudden overseas wedding. Sandy struggled to accept it and tried racing to the airport to fly to the US to stop the wedding. But she had a car accident on the way and lost the use of her legs. Billy, then an intern doctor, assisted in Sandy's surgery. After the surgery, Sandy, who once had the world at her feet, couldn't handle becoming disabled. She became irritable and angry, lashing out at the slightest inconvenience. Doctors and nurses avoided her, pushing the least experienced, Billy, to the forefront. Billy had a naturally friendly face and a gentle personality. With his skills and patience, he became the only person at the hospital who could approach Sandy. After Sandy was discharged, Susan came to see Billy. She offered him $500,000 to get close to Sandy, with the intent to marry and care for her around the clock. Facing mounting medical bills for his mother, Billy agreed without hesitation. He quit his hospital job and spent 3 years by Sandy's side. When Sandy lashed out because of her injuries, Billy bore her anger willingly. When her wounds hurt, he would massage her through the night. Every time she fell in rehab, Billy was there to catch her. Everyone wondered why a mysterious man was so good to Sandy. But only Billy knew that his college education was funded by Sandy. Sandy led the school's charity, and he was just one of the many students she sponsored. They were worlds apart, and Billy never dared to hope. Unexpectedly, he crossed paths with Sandy again, now disabled. He devoted himself entirely to her. Billy once believed that, over time, Sandy would see his goodness. But now, watching her eagerness to share her recovery with Gary, he felt exhausted. After 3 years of marriage, he hadn't won her heart. Every year on Chinese Valentine's Day, Sandy would vanish, leaving Billy worried, searching fruitlessly. Later, Billy discovered the significance. It was Sandy and Gary's anniversary. She couldn't be with Gary but kept every shared date dear, preparing gifts meticulously. Sandy had a study she kept locked. Once, Billy accidentally intruded while cleaning and was left in the rain all night as punishment. That room, filled with Gary's photographs, told Billy the truth. He could never truly win Sandy over. Thankfully, Sandy's legs were healed, and his task was done. While Sandy shared her joy with Gary on the phone, Billy made his own call. "Mom, Sandy can stand now. I'm done and I'm gonna get a divorce." They threw a big party for Sandy's recovery, and Billy was at the hotel early to help Susan set up. On the balcony, an unspoken conversation passed between him and Susan. After a pause, Susan sighed. "Billy, are you really divorcing her? You've cared for Sandy so well. With her recovery, she must appreciate you. You should make it work." "Gary's back," Billy replied simply, shifting Susan's expression from shock to worry and resignation. "All right, I'll respect your choice," Susan finally conceded. Billy's heart chilled at her quick change. Mentioning Gary made Susan abandon any attempt to reconcile them. They all knew Gary mattered to Sandy more than anything. And to Sandy, Billy was just a caretaker, no different from a servant. "What's your plan after the divorce, Billy? Since your mother passed, you're on your own. I've come to see you as a son these 3 years. You need anything, just ask." Billy's eyes welled up at this rare maternal warmth. Susan was right. Instead of curing his mother's illness with Susan's money, she had deteriorated quickly. His mom was gone, but he honored the deal with Susan to care for Sandy. Now it was time to think of himself. After a moment, Billy said, I want to study abroad for a PhD. I trained as a doctor. I should return to that. Don't worry. I'll arrange everything, Susan assured him. Billy nodded gratefully, adding, I'll discuss the divorce with Sandy, so don't worry about that, Aunt Susan. Susan nodded, a touch of pity in her eyes. With Gary back, Sandy would easily welcome a divorce. Billy was a good man, but in the end, just not their match. The party was bustling, and Susan and Billy went out to mingle with guests. As the event was about to start, Sandy still hadn't shown up. Susan called for her daughter, Betty. Betty, where's your sister? You were supposed to pick her up. Betty smiled mysteriously. Mom, don't worry. She'll be here soon enough with a surprise for you. With that, Betty cast a mocking glance at Billy, muttering, country boy, your good days are numbered. Betty never liked Billy, thinking he went after Sandy for money. Over the years, she'd harassed him both openly and in secret. The doors of the banquet hall swung open, and Sandy in a wine-red evening gown appeared, arm in arm with Gary in a sharp black suit. They exchanged a warm smile and walked in slowly. Is that Gary? Sandy's first love. Gary? Someone in the crowd asked. Yeah, except for Gary, when has Sandy ever looked at anyone like that? She's really got long-lasting feelings. She broke her leg back then for Gary, and now that it's healed, she brought him back right away. No kidding. It's just a shame some people can't see what's right in front of them and cling to what's gone. Others whispered, their eyes darting to Billy filled with sarcasm and mockery. Betty chuckled, what's up, country bumpkin? Shocked by how handsome Gary is? Now, you should know that being someone's doormat won't win their heart. Gary's back. Dude. So pack your bags and scram. Billy felt everyone's gaze on him like daggers under the spotlight. He really didn't belong here. Everyone had treated him like a servant, a slave, never seriously or with respect. He should have left long ago. Sandy, holding Gary's hand, approached Susan with excitement in her voice. Mom, Gary's back. Susan frowned at Gary, you're married. Why did you come back? Gary's smile froze. He glanced at Sandy and then lowered his head, apologizing to Susan. Aunt Susan, I'm sorry. Everything before was my fault. Sandy felt for Gary and immediately held his hand. Mom, Gary's wife cheated on him. He's a victim too. What's done is done. I don't care about the past. Please don't treat Gary like this. Even though Susan knew her daughter cared for Gary, being contradicted in public was embarrassing. She stormed off, leaving Sandy and Gary looking at Billy. Sandy didn't feel she owed Billy an explanation. Speaking casually, Gary just got back. He has no place to go. So could you tidy up the house? Billy paused, shocked. Gary staying at our place? Sandy raised an eyebrow. Yeah. Where else would he go? Nearby. Betty laughed. Our place? Did you really think you were the man of the house? Laughter erupted around the hall, and Billy felt a deep sense of loneliness. 3 years ago, after Sandy's accident, she became depressed and drank herself into oblivion. Her house caught fire, and Billy saved her, getting injured himself. When he woke in the hospital, Sandy proposed to him. She bought a house for their future, promising it would be their home. But now, with Gary's return, he would take over their home. During Billy's silent reflection, Gary uneasily suggested, Sandy, maybe Billy doesn't want me here. I can just stay at a hotel. No way, Sandy replied firmly. Hotels aren't safe. Billy forced a smile. You're right. I shouldn't be so petty. I'll go clean up the room, carry on. He turned away, escaping the filled with mockery and scorn. Just a house, right? It would have ended up with Gary sooner or later. Back in the empty home, Billy packed up his sunny bedroom. He didn't have much, as Sandy never gave him any gifts. Leaving wasn't hard, just light packing without baggage. Finished packing, he got a notification. Someone had uploaded a video from the party to social media. It showed Sandy and Gary drinking under candlelight, everyone cheering them to kiss. Billy couldn't watch and quickly shut it off. Not long after, Sandy and Gary returned, smelling of alcohol. Seeing Billy had given Gary his bedroom, Sandy was pleased. After Gary went to shower, Sandy surprisingly sat next to Billy, trying to hold his hand. "Billy, I knew you'd be understanding." Billy moved away from her touch, her hand frozen mid-air, a darker look clouding her eyes. "I said Gary's just staying temporarily." "Whatever," he replied. "Gary can stay as long as he wants." Billy handed her some documents. "The hospital needs supplies. Can the company donate?" Sandy took the papers, smiling but skeptical, viewing it as Billy's deal for Gary's stay without even reading through it. She didn't see the divorce papers at the bottom. Back in his room with Sandy's signed divorce papers, Billy didn't know whether to be happy or sad. Sad that 3 years of devotion meant nothing. Happy that he could finally leave and start fresh. At dawn, a knock at his door woke him. "Billy, could you make some porridge? Gary's not feeling well after drinking." Sandy's legs had been sensitive since the accident, avoiding showing vulnerability. The house had no staff, so she was used to ordering Billy. Half asleep, Billy instinctively refused. "No." "What did you say?" Sandy almost thought she misheard. Billy had never turned her down before. With Sandy questioning him, Billy's mind cleared a bit. Billy pointed to his head. "I have a terrible headache, I can't cook." Ever since he got hit on the head 3 years ago at the fire scene, headaches had been a recurring issue for Billy. Sandy knew this. After a moment, Sandy sighed. "Forget it, I'll take him out to eat." As Sandy and Gary were heading out, Billy sat reading in the room. He was preparing to go abroad for his PhD, and wanted to brush up on his studies. Gary came into his room, pretending to be nice. "Billy, Sandy and I are going out for a bite. Come along." Billy couldn't refuse. Once Gary asked, Sandy wouldn't allow Billy to say no. The black Maybach weaved through traffic until it stopped at Sandy and Gary's alma mater entrance. As soon as he stepped out, Gary gazed at Sandy with emotion. "Sandy, it's been so long since we came back. So many memories here." Sandy nodded but couldn't help noticing Billy awkwardly standing aside. Gary wanted to have some canteen chicken congee. "We thought we'd have a look around," she explained to Billy for once, only to receive a cold nod in return. "Yeah, it's fine as long as you both have fun." Sandy's brow twitched, feeling like something was different about Billy. Before she could ponder, Gary already tugged her into the campus. Everywhere they went was a testament to their love. They reminisced and laughed, paying no heed to Billy behind them. Billy watched their backs, feeling tired. "Hold on a bit longer. Once the divorce cooling-off period is over, I'll truly be free," he told himself. The cafeteria had great vibes and plenty of food choices. Sandy carried a full tray to Gary, bubbling with excitement. "Gary, I got all your college favorites. Give them a try." Billy stared in disbelief at the spicy red foods on the table. In 3 years, Sandy had consistently remembered Gary's likes, but was oblivious that Billy couldn't handle spicy food. Billy got up to get himself something plain. An oblivious cafeteria lady, holding a steaming pot, bumped into him. Scalding soup splashed, and Sandy instinctively shielded Gary. Almost the entire pot drenched Billy's arm, instantly covering it with blistering bubbles. "Are you okay?" Sandy anxiously stood and grabbed his arm, concern for him evident for the first time. Billy didn't get a chance to respond before Gary cried out, "Sandy, it's so hot. It hurts so bad." Gary's hand had a few red marks, nothing compared to Billy's blisters, yet he clutched his wrist in pain. "Sandy, my hand's been burned." Hearing this, Sandy immediately let go of Billy's arm and turned to assist Gary. "Hold on, Gary. I'll take you to the hospital." After a few steps, Sandy suddenly remembered the person left behind. She turned to Billy with a hint of apology. "You're a doctor, right? You know first aid. Handle it yourself for now. I'll get a driver to pick you up later." Holding it together for days, Billy's eyes watered, his heart squeezed in pain. This was his wife, the woman he'd cared for wholeheartedly for 3 years. But no matter how serious his injury was, next to Gary's, it meant nothing. These 3 years of attention and care had been trampled repeatedly like weeds. In the sweltering weather, Billy's untreated arm worsened, becoming infected. The doctor insisted he stay in the hospital, and Billy agreed. For the past 3 years, he had taken care of Sandy day and night, not leaving her side despite feeling unwell. But now he only wanted to live for himself, Billy switched off his phone, staying in the hospital, healing while reading. Watching the busy doctors, hope filled his eyes and heart. He once dreamed of being a great doctor, saving lives. But after his contract with Susan, he had given up that dream. Now, finally back to school to study, he hoped to gain knowledge and quickly return to the front line to fulfill his unfinished career. Before discharge, he ran into Betty at the hospital. She was there with a friend. Seeing Billy, Betty stormed over angrily. "Hick, what are you pulling? Disappearing on purpose? You know the havoc at home with you missing? My sister's been looking everywhere. Why look for me?" Billy was puzzled. Him being in the hospital left plenty of space for Sandy and Gary's time together. Betty scratched her messy hair. "Ugh, I can't be bothered explaining. Just go back and see for yourself." Ignoring Billy's injury, Betty dragged him out of the hospital and back home. Once through the villa door, Billy sensed the change. The garden, lush a week ago, was now withered, and inside was a mess. Hearing the entrance noise, Sandy's eyes brightened. She strode over, grabbing his injured arm. "Where did you go? Billy, you've gotten guts. Just because I took you late to the hospital, you ran off? Look at this mess here." With every word, blood dripped from his arm, the pain searing to his core. He was puzzled why Sandy searched for him. It was clear now. A helper was lacking. She cared not for his injury or his whereabouts. She only blamed him for not being the obedient helper he used to be. Gritting his teeth, he pulled his arm away. "Sandy, you're hurting me." Only then did Sandy notice his bloody clothes. Remembering the cafeteria incident, her tone softened. "Didn't realize your injury was serious. Fine, it was my fault, but your tantrum equals it out. Come, I have something to show you." For the first time, she took Billy by the hand, leading him upstairs. She presented an extravagant limited edition watch. "This was a compensation for your injury. Since Gary's moving out, stop sulking." Billy opened his mouth, unsure what to say. He longed so much for her to give him a gift of any sort, but now, faced with it, he wondered if it was for him or Gary. Without expression, Billy placed the watch box on the table. After a shower, he came out to find Gary admiring a watch in the mirror. Spotting Billy, Gary smirked provocatively via the glass. "Sorry, Billy, didn't mean for you to see this. Mentioned liking this watch yesterday, and Sandy bought it today. She sure is." Before Gary finished, Sandy exited the kitchen. Seeing the watch on Gary's wrist, her face froze for a moment. Gary walked over and gently took her hand. "Sandy, thank you. I really love the gift." Sandy gave Billy a complicated look, then turned back to Gary. After a long pause, she finally spoke. "I'm glad you like it." "Yeah, as long as Gary likes it," Billy echoed with a slight nod. Without another word, he brushed past them and headed straight to the garden. The familiar scent drifted by Sandy's nose as she watched Billy's retreating figure, feeling a bit strange. Why wasn't he angry? Was he just pretending? "Never mind, it's just a watch. Next time, I'll buy him a more expensive one," Sandy quickly convinced herself. Billy wouldn't be so petty. The 30-day divorce cooling-off period went by fast. Billy had already booked a flight to leave the country, just waiting for that final day. On the day, he packed everything into boxes, getting ready to ship them overseas ahead of him. As he was heading out with the boxes, he bumped into Gary and Betty rushing in. The contents spilled everywhere, and Billy hurried to pick them up, but it was too late, they noticed. "Why are you packing so much stuff?" Betty asked. Billy made up an excuse. "They're just things I don't need anymore. I'm donating them to a welfare home." Betty snorted. "Your junk. Donate it? Poor kids at the welfare home." Ignoring her taunt, Billy closed the box, planning to head out. "Hold on," Gary called out and picked up a jade bracelet from the box. "This looks interesting. I'll take it." Billy's eyes fixed on the bracelet, and he snatched it back from Gary with urgency. "No, I put this in by mistake. It's not for donation. I want to keep it." It was the last thing Billy's mom left him before she passed, something he treasured. Unexpectedly, Gary had come across it. "What's the big deal? It's just a bracelet. If Gary likes it, that's your blessing. Hurry up and give it to him," You look so poor. Betty sneered at Billy. I said no, and I mean it. It's mine, why should I give it to him? Billy's anger rose, and he shouted, his face flushed. Betty was stunned. Billy yelled at her. Who did he think he was? Just as Betty moved to snatch it, Sandy walked in. The noise could be heard from afar. What's all the fuss? Sandy's displeased eyes landed on Billy. Before Billy could speak, Gary chimed in, embellishing the story. Sandy, it's my fault. Billy had a box of things he didn't want, ready to donate. I asked if I could buy a bracelet from him, but he refused. Exactly, we've never seen someone so stingy. We're willing to pay. Betty added fuel to the fire. Sandy frowned and turned to Billy. It's just a bracelet. If Gary wants it, just give it to him. I'll buy you a new one. Her obvious disregard pained Billy, and he gripped his lips, taking deep breaths, eyes turning red. He held out the bracelet. Sandy, take a good look. This bracelet was my mom's. Do you know what it means to me? After his mom passed, Billy wore the bracelet every day, even while sleeping. He only took it off once, when it was scratched during Sandy's rehab, and he carefully preserved it afterward. He thought Sandy, having spent so much time with him, would have some recollection of it. But she stared at it blankly, her expression unchanged, and her tone grew sharper. Billy, you're getting ridiculous. Making up such a lie about it being an heirloom for a bracelet. You think I'd fall for that? It seems like you're just trying to make things difficult for Gary. The more he wants something, the less willing you are to give it to him, even if you have to donate it instead. Billy, I'm so disappointed in you. Such a petty man. Sandy stormed out, dragging Gary with her, slamming the door behind her. Billy swayed on the spot, leaning against the wall, sliding down slowly. No matter what Gary said, Sandy believed him. But even when telling the truth, she wouldn't believe a word from Billy. Sitting there, Billy held the bracelet close to his heart, feeling a sharp pain. After that debacle, Billy couldn't trust the bracelet to be shipped, so he packed it in his carry-on bag, planning to take it personally. One day, Susan called and invited him to dinner at her place. Susan was earnest, saying it might be their last family meal. Moved, Billy agreed. Upon arrival, he saw Sandy had brought Gary along, seated in his usual spot. Avoiding their gaze, Billy sat at the end of the table. During the meal, Sandy fussed over Gary, leaving Billy to eat in silence. Susan watched with discomfort, feeling unable to scold her daughter directly. After dinner, as Billy said his goodbyes and stepped outside, he heard laughter from Sandy, Betty, and Gary in the garden. Sandy, you wouldn't believe it, but this bracelet is pretty handy. Tough enough to crack walnuts. I wonder what it's made of. Who cares? It's probably nothing valuable. Billy's so poor, he can't have anything good. Betty laughed along. Hearing these words, Billy's blood boiled. He marched over, finding Gary wearing the bracelet. It was now battered with marks. It seemed Gary indeed used it to crack walnuts. Rage burned in Billy's eyes. His face grew red with anger, breath heaving audibly. Sandy, you stole my bracelet to give it to Gary? Sandy frowned. Stole? Gary's just borrowing it for a couple of days. He'll return it. Taking without asking is stealing. How can you not understand that? Billy nearly lost his mind, shaking with emotion, grabbing Gary's arm, trying to take the bracelet back. Billy, let go. You're hurting me. Gary cried out and Sandy flared up. All for a bracelet. Billy dared talk back and even lay hands on Gary. Stand there. Help out. Sandy shouted, and two bodyguards rushed in, grabbing Billy's shoulders and throwing him back. Caught off guard, Billy fell to the ground. Lightning flashed, and rain poured down quickly. Gary patted Sandy's back, calming her. It's my fault, Sandy. Let's not argue. I'll give it back. Removing the bracelet, Gary handed it to Billy. Ignoring his pain, Billy scrambled up, reaching for the bracelet in Gary's hand. As his hands neared it, Gary's hand slipped. The bracelet fell, shattering on the ground. Billy's eyes widened in horror, while Gary cried out, Billy, why didn't you hold it right? Now it's broken, what are we gonna do? It broke, and that's on him. Sandy, still fuming, declared bluntly and pulled Gary and Betty into the house. The rain was drizzling down as Billy stared at the shattered bracelet. A knot of pain twisted inside his chest. He clutched at his chest and sank to his knees. His tears mixed with the rain, leaving a bitter taste. His mother's keepsake was gone. The last connection he had to this world vanished. He put in 3 years of effort and got nothing. He lost everything. Sandy came out of the shower, instinctively moved to the window. In the dim garden light, a lone figure was kneeling, slowly picking up pieces of the bracelet. She felt a sharp pang in her chest, suddenly finding it hard to breathe. Could it really be his mother's keepsake, for Billy to be so hung up on it? Just as Sandy tossed aside her towel, about to go downstairs, Gary and Betty intercepted her. "Sis, you're not really gonna look for that guy, are you? I'm telling you, he's acting to get attention. Don't fall for it," Gary said nervously. "Sandy, Billy himself said it was something he didn't want, that's why I borrowed it for fun." "It's my fault he's upset," Gary said, bowing his head. Hearing this, Sandy suddenly understood. Right, he did say he didn't want it. He only changed his mind when Gary wanted it. Wasn't this about Gary? No wonder he's playing miserable in the garden. If she went down, surely he'd get used to it. Thinking this, Sandy gave up on finding Billy. By the time dawn broke, Billy had collected all the pieces from the garden. Drenched from a night of rain, he felt heavy and dizzy, but he dared not rest. He'd soon leave, and he had to fix the bracelet, or else never find peace. Billy visited many places before finding a craftsman at the city's biggest jewelry auction who could restore it. Billy, overwhelmed and grateful, thanked them repeatedly. The craftsman took 3 full days to repair the bracelet. Broken things stay broken. No matter how you mend them, the cracks remain. "I've done my best," the craftsman said, handing him the bracelet. Billy looked at the cracks and felt a deep regret, yet he still bowed in thanks. "I understand, sir. It's no small feat to fix it like this. Thank you." Carefully cradling the box, Billy left the workshop, only to bump into someone he didn't want to see. "Billy, what a coincidence. Here to buy jewelry too?" Gary grinned. Billy, not wanting to talk, turned to the stairs. But as they passed, Gary shoved him. Screams echoed through the store as Sandy arrived to find them both on the floor. Billy's face was bruised, and blood streamed from his knee. Gary, though unharmed, looked innocently at Billy. "I know you hate me, Billy. Breaking your bracelet upset me too. I came to buy you a gift as an apology, but you pushed me down the stairs. Were you trying to kill me?" Billy's mind reeled, and before he could speak, Sandy was looking at him with slow, growing hatred. "Billy, how can you be so vicious? If anything happens to Gary, you'll pay." Sandy's warning rang like thunder as she bypassed Billy, having a bodyguard lift Gary and rush to the hospital. Billy looked at his own wounds, almost not feeling the pain anymore. He wryly comforted himself, thinking maybe if his heart hurt enough, he'd feel less of the physical pain. His battered body seemed nothing worth cherishing. Store attendants took Billy to the hospital, coincidentally where he once worked. Having injured his leg, he visited orthopedics much like Sandy used to, and ran into Dr. Lee, his old mentor. After dressing his wounds, Dr. Lee asked gently, "How do you feel? In pain? Where's your wife? She's not here with you?" Billy forced a small smile. "I'm okay, sir. I can take care of myself." Dr. Lee understood at once. Marriages with the wealthy often looked great, but hid true despair only the involved knew. Clapping Billy on the shoulder, he reassured, "No worries, worst case. Come back to work here. You'll always be welcome." Billy felt a warmth inside. "Thank you, sir. I've been out of practice too long. I'll return once I catch up." Dr. Lee felt heartened. "Good. As doctors, we must always sharpen our skills. Oh, did you know? There's a treatment now for your mom's condition. If only she'd held on a little longer, you might still have her." Billy hesitated, stunned. "Sir, are you saying back then it was untreatable?" "Yes, didn't I tell you? She had about 3 months between onset and passing." "Oh, I remember, I didn't tell you. I told a lady claiming to be family. She thought you'd struggle to handle it and wanted to tell you gently." A chord snapped in Billy's mind. He had no other family. The lady was surely Susan. He'd known his mother's illness was terminal, yet Susan offered him $5 million to keep her treated, in return for staying by Sandy's side. His mother's demise was anticipated by Susan, and out of gratitude for her aid in a dire time, Billy chose to remain with Sandy. Susan sacrificed his 3 best years to enliven her daughter, leaving him hollow. Billy ignored Dr. Lee's shock, barely managing to hold himself together as tears finally spilled uncontrollably. 3 years like some ridiculous joke. Stupid. I was so stupid. He lamented fiercely, pounding himself. Dr. Lee, startled, sedated him, forcing him into sleep. When Billy woke, he was as calm as a puppet on strings. He dragged his injured leg to check out of the hospital. As he turned, he saw Sandy cautiously helping Gary down the corridor, radiating concern. Billy walked past them, indifferent until Sandy grabbed his arm. How can you walk past Gary like that, Billy? Apologize to him. Facing her loud accusation, Billy calmly said, I didn't push him. I'm not apologizing. Gary gently tugged her sleeve, feigning magnanimity. Don't blame Billy, Sandy. Maybe he didn't mean it. Seeing Gary so considerate while Billy was obstinate, Sandy's eyes blazed with anger. Don't bother coming home until you apologize to Gary. See how long before you wise up, being homeless. Billy gave a bitter smile. So Sandy knew he was homeless too. Did she know she's the reason? This time he didn't relent. His eyes were full of simmering loathing as he met her gaze. Sandy stood stunned, never having seen this side of Billy before. During her brief moment of shock, Billy shoved her aside and limped out of the hospital. He dragged his battered body to the airport, leaving the city behind for good. Before he left, Billy sent Sandy their divorce papers by courier. Staring at the familiar name on the package, one he'd read 1,000 times over. Now it was just Sandy, goodbye forever. Waking up in the empty villa that morning, Sandy felt a bit dazed, barely remembering how long it had been since she last saw Billy. After that hospital visit, it seemed as if he vanished from her world. Getting out of bed, she saw the closet piled with dirty clothes, and the kitchen had days-old delivery boxes. Suddenly, she felt annoyed. Was Billy playing this old game of leaving home again? Did he really think she'd cave in like last time? Maybe some time away was good. After what he did to Gary, he needed to face the consequences. Thinking this, she brushed off her frustration, drove out, and picked up Gary for a shopping spree. Gary was on a shopping high, and Sandy trailed him from morning till night, her legs starting to ache. In the car, Gary held her hand and hinted, Sandy, why not come over to my place tonight? Looking at the face she'd longed after for years, Sandy hesitated. She knew what Gary meant, but tonight, she surprisingly wanted to go home. Perhaps Billy realized his mistake and returned, and she needed to set him straight. With this thought, Sandy turned down Gary's offer and drove home alone. The villa remained just as she had left it, while her legs throbbed painfully. Lying on the couch, Sandy was infuriated. Normally, Billy would have rushed to her side with a warm compress and a massage, but this time he dared to stay away for so long. Grabbing her phone, she angrily tapped the screen to call him. Billy, you ran to... The questioning words were silenced by a cold automated message. Oh, Billy was bold. Alright, had even turned off his phone. Clearly, he didn't want to stay in this home anymore. Sandy tossed and turned on the couch, battling pain and restless sleep. After a long night, she called for her driver in the morning, instructing him to take her to the hospital. As he helped her into a wheelchair, she casually asked, Seen Billy lately? Nope. Last I saw him was dropping him at the jewelry store. He seemed off that day, haven't seen him since. Sandy glared at the driver, annoyed that he seemed to side with Billy. She scoffed, he's not as great as you think. My leg's killing me and he's still MIA. We'll see. He's got something up his sleeve. The driver stayed silent, pushing the wheelchair out of the villa, where they were met by a courier. Sandy, I've got a delivery from Billy. Please sign here. Sandy let out a sarcastic laugh. Looked like Billy was trying to make nice before his grand return. She mused. She took the package, opened it casually, only to find a divorce certificate staring back at her. Their names etched in clear print. They were divorced. Sandy's first thought was disbelief. She hadn't even mentioned divorce. How dare Billy? Suddenly remembering a stack of papers, Sandy urgently wheeled towards the study. In a pile at the very bottom lay a divorce agreement. Listed were reasons of broken affections and mutual consent. At the bottom, their names signed. Sandy stared in disbelief, red creeping into her eyes. Billy had already determined to divorce her, tricked her into signing it, and she didn't even notice through to the end of the separation period. Sandy's face turned dark with rage, and she barked orders at the driver. Find Billy. Get everyone on it. I need to know what game he's playing. The next 3 days, Sandy hobbled around on sore legs, checking everywhere Billy might be. His old job, places they frequented, even his hometown, all turned up nothing. Everyone she asked shook their heads unknowingly. Returning home, fuming, Susan and Betty hurried toward her. Sandy, what are you doing? You're causing such a scene. You know the company's stock is dropping? That's right, sister. Why bother finding Billy? Being divorced should be a relief. You never even liked him. Sandy hit the wheelchair's armrest in frustration, anger clouding her eyes. I want to know why he thinks he can divorce me. Susan hesitated, trying to say something as Gary walked in. Tears welled in his eyes. He embraced Sandy in worry and confusion. Sandy, I've been waiting at home for days. Why haven't you come see me? Seeing this, Susan swallowed her words. Gary being there, Sandy probably wouldn't care about Billy's reasons for the divorce. She tapped Sandy's shoulder before leaving. Now alone, Gary, eager to cheer her up, showed her food he'd made. Sandy, I know you're upset, so I cooked something special for you. Give it a try? Sandy's tense expression finally eased. With Gary, things felt right. They were the ones truly in love. Billy was best left in the past. Smiling, she pulled Gary to the table, full of dishes tailored to her taste. As she ate, a brief thought flickered. Billy used to make these too. Possibly even better. With Billy gone, Gary moved into Sandy's villa, taking over as the man of the house. Sandy allowed it, thinking that filling the home with life would return things to normal. It didn't matter whether Billy was there or not. After attending a business event one night, Sandy got home tipsy, instinctively calling out, Billy, make me some hangover soup. Gary came down, a look of displeasure. Sandy, who are you calling? Realizing she'd slipped, she hugged him. Gary, I meant to say you. My stomach hurts. Can you make me that hangover cure? Gary reluctantly went to the kitchen, clattering for over an hour, only to serve her a cup of cold water. Sandy, I can't make hangover soup. He shrugged. She just sighed, fine. Then help with my legs. I've been on my feet too long today. Gary eagerly moved in on her, his hands awkwardly roaming in a way that only worsened her pain. As his touches grew bolder, Sandy had enough. She abruptly stood, frowning. Forget it if you can't. I'm heading to bed. Through the night, as Sandy lay awake, her thoughts drifted back. Was Billy truly divorcing her? He loved her deeply, cherished her beyond measure. Was this a cry for attention, or was he serious? By morning, Sandy hadn't slept. Coming downstairs, she found Susan. Susan halted, startled. Her daughter appeared gaunt, shirt wrinkled, and moving with a limp, things Billy would have never let happen. Susan took a deep breath, turning stern. Sandy, there's something I didn't want to tell you, but seeing you in this state, I'm really worried. 3 years ago, Billy came to your side because he had a deal with me. His mother was seriously ill back then, and I offered him $5 million to help with her medical expenses in exchange for taking care of you. At that time, you were down because of your broken leg and had almost lost the will to live. Only Billy could reach out to you, and I came up with this plan out of desperation. A little over a month ago, Billy came to me and said that Gary was back, and he willingly stepped aside. I thought you and Gary would be able to live happily ever after, but looking at you now, it seems that's not the case. Sandy, Billy is a good guy, and Gary is your first love. You really need to think about who's more important to you. Sandy suddenly tensed, as if hit by something invisible, her eyes losing their sparkle instantly. "No way," Sandy murmured, her voice hoarse and unlike her usual self. "Billy doesn't love me, all he did was to fulfill a contract. How is that possible? How could he not love me? I don't believe it." Susan, unable to see her daughter like this, stepped forward to support her. But Sandy brushed her hand away and suddenly laughed out loud. "Mom, I know you're joking with me. Even if there was a deal between you and Billy, everything he did was definitely because he loved me. For the past 3 years, we've been together day and night. The things he's done for me, the way he looks at me, that's not something you can fake. No one knows better than me how much he loves me. He's just mad and left temporarily, but I believe he'll come back soon." Sandy laughed boldly but somewhat desperately, constantly repeating, "He'll come back. He'll come back." Susan couldn't bear to see her force a smile. "Sandy, I know you're proud and it's hard to accept the idea of a contract, but—" Sandy's smile froze. Despite her usual pride, her face showed a rare sense of desolation. But soon, she hid all her emotions away, returning to her usual aloof demeanor. She interrupted Susan without hesitation. "You're overthinking it. Mom, the one who can't accept this is Billy. If he finds out I'm going to marry Gary, he'll regret it big time and come running back to me. You'll see, Billy can't not love me." As she spoke, Sandy adjusted the collar of her shirt and stood tall. Before Susan could react, she had already turned and gone upstairs. In the bedroom, a drowsy Gary opened his eyes to see Sandy sitting by his bed. "Gary, will you marry me?" Gary, not having time to register Sandy's odd expression, excitedly jumped out of bed and hugged her tightly. Watching the strange atmosphere from the doorway, Susan sighed and walked away. At that moment, Billy had no idea that his departure had stirred so many emotions. He was studying at the best medical school in Switzerland. With the unfamiliar language and slightly unfamiliar subjects, things weren't easy for Billy. But he enjoyed it. After having his studies delayed for 3 years because of family issues, he realized how precious those opportunities were. Apart from studying, Billy wanted to break free from the past and see more of the world. He decided to join a tour to Iceland during the holiday. However, a small mishap occurred at the airport. His luggage included a leather jacket, which the security deemed not compliant with animal protection regulations, and detained him. Switzerland primarily uses French and German, and Billy had focused on the former. So, his German skills were basic at best, compounded by the fact that the security officer spoke standard German. He tried communicating in both English and French but to no avail, and with the plane about to take off, panic set in. At that moment, a girl with a pure appearance and a gentle aura approached him. "Need help?" she asked in Mandarin. Billy nodded frantically. With her fluent German, she quickly explained that the jacket was faux leather and not true animal skin. The security officer finally allowed him through, and Billy, looking at his watch, felt a rush of urgency. "Thank you. My plane is leaving soon. I've got to go. Thanks again." Watching him sprint away, the girl smiled warmly. Once seated on the plane, Billy was still catching his breath when a familiar face sat beside him. "Wow, coincidence seeing you again," she said, though her eyes showed no surprise. Billy, on the other hand, was astounded. "No way. You're going to Reykjavik too?" She shrugged. "Yeah, chasing the aurora." "You too?" Billy nodded eagerly. "Exactly. Such a small world. I was too rushed to thank you properly earlier though. Seriously, thanks a ton. Otherwise, I might have missed this whole trip." She waved it off. "No worries, we should help each other out when we're abroad." Through their conversation, Billy learned that the girl's name was Melody. Even more surprising, she attended the same medical school, studying anesthesiology, and they had signed up for the same Iceland tour. Billy studied her and wondered if one could really have such a string of coincidences. Why did Melody seem so familiar to him? He pondered this for a long time but couldn't find an answer. To celebrate Sandy's proposal, Gary threw a big party to let everyone witness their happiness. In the lounge, Sandy drank one glass after another, often not hearing Gary speak to her. Gary was a little displeased. "Sandy, why are you so absent-minded? Aren't you happy?" Sandy immediately set her drink down and smiled. Gary, what are you talking about? Of course, I'm happy. I wanted to marry you from the first day we started dating. Finally, I'm seeing that day, she said firmly. For a moment, she couldn't tell if these words were meant more to convince Gary or to reassure herself. Her proposal to Gary was well known throughout the city, yet there was no news from Billy. It felt as if he had disappeared from the world, indifferent to anything connected to her. The congratulations from people around her were loud and overwhelming, but Sandy found it all grating. She stood up, needing some air, and at the corridor's corner, she overheard a familiar voice. Gary, you're amazing for getting rid of Sandy's little tag-along so fast. Tell us, what tricks did you use? Gary chuckled. No tricks needed, just a few fake falls and some pity moves. That kind of ordinary guy isn't even on my radar. Sandy froze. Fake falls, pity moves. These were tricks Gary used against Billy? What exactly had Gary been doing behind her back? Sandy restrained her urge to confront Gary immediately. She turned and quickly headed downstairs, straight to the jewelry store. Sandy, is there anything you need? You know me? The sales associate hesitated for a second, then replied, last time you came with a companion and had a dispute with another gentleman. I remember it well. Show me the footage from that day. Sandy coldly demanded. Knowing Sandy's status, the staff didn't dare refuse. On the surveillance, Sandy clearly saw Billy being pushed by Gary and then Gary faking a fall. Sandy's face darkened, her anger apparent with veins visibly pulsing on her forehead. Back in the car, the driver hesitated before glancing at Sandy. If you have something to say, just say it. The driver nervously handed her a photo, saying, I came across this at your place the other day. I wasn't sure if I should keep it. Sandy took the photo and saw Billy and his mother in the picture. It took her a moment, but she noticed Billy's mom was wearing the bracelet that was broken. It was really his mother's keepsake. So Gary didn't just break Billy's mom's keepsake. He pushed him down the stairs to frame him. Oh, Gary, you're so conniving. Seeing Sandy's face darken, the driver decided to spill everything he knew. Sandy, while you were away, someone came to see Gary. I recorded it secretly. You should hear it. In the recording, a woman's voice pleaded, Gary, come back with me. Okay? The kid misses you and talks about you every day. And I miss you too. The woman continued, last time was a misunderstanding. It was just a colleague. I didn't cheat on you. My heart is with you. But Gary's voice was sharp. Stop pestering me. I don't want to be with you anymore. He added, look at you in the dumps like that. How can you compare to Sandy? Even if you didn't cheat, I still want a divorce. I got Billy out of the picture. I'm this close to winning Sandy over. Don't ruin it for me. Sandy let out a painful scream, unable to suppress her anger any longer. The Gary she loved for years was this kind of guy. She'd unwittingly driven Billy away for him. Oh, Sandy, what have you done? The driver hit the gas, speeding Sandy home. She rushed upstairs, and Gary, hearing her, walked over smiling. Sandy, where have you been? I was just getting started. Sandy looked at him darkly, holding a baseball bat. Gary, why did you come back this time? The sound of the bat on the floor intimidated Gary. Sandy, why are you holding a baseball bat at this hour? She yelled. Answer me, startling Gary. He couldn't keep his composure, stuttering. I told you my ex-wife cheated on me. She betrayed me. Hearing this, Sandy gave a cold smile and played the recording. As Gary's voice filled the room, he started to panic. No, Sandy, those were just angry words. I didn't come back for money. I genuinely like you. Sandy asked furiously, is that why you pushed Billy out? Because you like me? Do you like me or just my money? Unable to control her rage, Gary foolishly said, Billy? He just hung around you for 3 years. I didn't do anything wrong making him leave. You always liked me, Sandy. Even now, Gary belittled Billy, seeing nothing wrong with his actions. Sandy stepped closer, angrily swinging the bat into his knee, hatred blazing in her eyes. You made Billy's life hard, destroyed his mom's keepsake, pushed him down the stairs, and framed him time and time again. You see nothing wrong with any of that? Gary, when did you become so cruel? Gary hadn't imagined Sandy would actually hit him. The pain in his leg made him angry. He pushed her away, yelling like a madman. Cruel? Sandy, you think you're any better? He continued, you strung Billy along for 3 years, calling him your husband. But did you respect him at all? His place in your house was less than a servant's. I just added fuel to the fire. You drove him away yourself. Oh, Sandy, you're just paying the price for your own actions. Don't try to pin this on me, who'd really love someone as unpredictable and crippled as you. The resounding slap echoed through the villa. Shocked, Gary stared at Sandy, realizing he might have gone too far. At this moment, Sandy was in control, like a demon from hell making everyone uneasy. As Gary tried to walk away, Sandy blocked him. Recalling everything Gary's done, Sandy swung at his legs with all her might. Once he couldn't stand, she kicked him down the stairs like he had once done to Billy. Gary's cries filled the house, but Sandy felt no pity. You're right, I was wrong. For not seeing your true self all these years, for trusting you repeatedly, and hurting Billy. Sandy paced deliberately down the blood-stained stairs toward Gary. He lay there, unable to speak, a mix of tears and blood on his face. Just then, the door swung open. Susan, horrified by the scene, saw a different Sandy. Sandy. Susan's voice brought Sandy back to reality a bit. She dropped the bat, stepped over Gary, and hurried to Susan. Mom, I've made mistakes. Tell me where Billy is. I need to find him and make things right. On the other side of the world, Billy was enjoying his trip. The tour was thoughtfully arranged, and his new friend, Melody, was incredibly kind. Before each day's journey, she'd remind him about the weather. His thermos was always filled with hot water, and she'd hold his arm at risky sights to ensure his safety. Billy often felt like they were old friends, not recent acquaintances. When he subtly asked Melody about this, she just smiled gently, saying maybe it was fate. Billy couldn't press further and started to enjoy their dynamic. On the day the trip ended, Billy and Melody returned to school together. Just as Billy was about to say goodbye to Melody, he saw a familiar figure. Sandy, who he hadn't seen in ages, stood under a bleak streetlight, dressed all in black, looking thinner. Seeing him, her eyes seemed a bit wet. She was walking toward him, her steps a bit labored. Billy guessed she might be dealing with an old leg injury. Instinctively, Sandy wanted to grab Billy's hand, but Melody stopped her, stepping in front of Billy. Sandy frowned, looking displeased at Melody. Who are you? Billy calmly interrupted her. None of your business. Melody, let's go. I don't want to see her. He took Melody's hand and started to leave, but this move stabbed at Sandy. For the past 3 years, no other woman had been near Billy, and she naturally assumed she was the only one in his life. But seeing Billy's intimate gesture with this girl was a new kind of heartbreak. Ignoring the pain in her legs, Sandy ran ahead to block his way. Billy, don't tell me you divorced me for this woman? Billy's past, something he'd rather forget, was now thrown in front of Melody plain as day by Sandy, and his face flushed with embarrassment. His gaze at Sandy turned cold and sharp. Speak respectfully, Sandy. Who I'm with has nothing to do with you anymore. If you had any decency left, you'd reflect on what you did over the years instead of blaming others for the divorce. His words squeezed Sandy's heart tight, making it hard to breathe. She softened her tone. I'm sorry, Billy. I shouldn't have said that. I searched long to find you. Can we not argue over someone unrelated? Can we talk, please? Billy shook his head firmly, unyielding. We have nothing to talk about. His stance left Sandy feeling humiliated as she glanced at Melody. She didn't want to admit her mistakes in front of the stranger, yet didn't want to miss asking Billy for forgiveness. Taking a deep breath, she struggled to speak. Billy, I'm sorry for my mistakes in the past. I know now what Gary did to you, and I understand he came back to me for money. I've been regretting not realizing I've loved you all along. Please, give me another chance to make it right, to love you. Billy found her late explanations and apologies amusing. He looked her up and down, all concern and affection gone, leaving only indifference and disdain. Sandy, don't you see how ridiculous you are? When I was around, Gary was your number one, day and night. Now that you see Gary doesn't truly love you, you remember me. To you, am I just a backup, always there when you want? Do you think saying this will sway me? You underestimate me, Sandy. I couldn't care less about your so-called love. After saying this, Billy walked away without looking back, with Melody quickly following. Sandy stood alone on a foreign street, her aching legs preventing her from running after Billy. The autumn wind carried leaves, and with it, an unprecedented panic and desolation filled her. She wanted to say it wasn't true. She loved Billy long before knowing Gary's true nature. Memories flooded her mind, and she realized she fell for Billy when he risked his life for her in a fire. But she realized it too late. Billy didn't notice Sandy was gone until he had walked 2 streets away. Stopping, his body trembled and his breathing became heavy. It had been difficult enough to leave and start fresh, and now Sandy was back to haunt him. He grew more frustrated, punching a nearby tree. Melody, trailing after him, was startled by the outburst and quickly checked on his hand. Does it hurt? It's bruised. Don't take it out on yourself. Turning, Billy calmed his breathing and awkwardly pulled his hand away. Thanks, Melody. I'm sorry you had to see that. Melody looked at him seriously and shook her head. No, being brave enough to say no is admirable. I support you. Meeting Melody's clear, bright eyes, Billy felt a surge of emotion. Someone he just met could give such trust. Yet Sandy never knew what he wanted even after 3 years. Billy smiled and continued down the street with Melody. Stopping at a convenience store, Melody went in for water, leaving Billy waiting outside. That's when a masked man snatched Billy's bag. The force pulled him down, exposing his weak arm. The thief kicked him hard and grabbed a bracelet from Billy's wrist. Billy, still hurting from a past leg injury, couldn't stand up. Melody, seeing this on her way out, rushed over, panicked. Are you hurt? Billy struggled to nod, pointing incoherently after the thief. Bracelet? My mom's bracelet. Melody understood instantly, called the police, and chased after the thief. Half an hour later, she returned, face bruised, with officers by her side. She pulled the bracelet from her pocket, smiling to assure him. Seeing her innocent expression, emotion welled up in Billy, and he hugged her. Are you crazy? What if something happened to you? Melody, part shocked, part pleased, patted his back. It's okay. I'm fine. Sandy, arriving by car, witnessed this embrace and felt her blood run cold. Billy, had he truly fallen for someone else? For days, Sandy kept popping up in Billy's life in all sorts of ways. She'd appear at the library, the lecture hall, and even down by his apartment building, trailing behind him like some ghost. Billy tried to brush her off as best he could, but she wouldn't leave him alone. Frustrated, Billy decided to meet her at a coffee shop to set things straight once and for all. He ordered a hot Americano, and just as the waiter was bringing it over, he slipped. The steaming cup flew right towards Billy's face. Before he could even process what was happening, Sandy stepped in front of him, taking the scalding coffee on her arm instead. Blisters instantly formed on her skin. Billy was stunned. He glanced over at Sandy, didn't say a word, and just took her straight to the hospital. The short walk was made unbearable due to Sandy's pain, beads of sweat forming on her forehead. Seeing the stoic Billy beside her, she remembered the time he got burned in the cafeteria. It was a whole pot of freshly boiled food, injuring him way worse than she was now. Back then, while he was in severe pain, she had left him for Gary, taking him to the hospital instead. Remembering this, Sandy felt like slapping herself hard. After getting her wound dressed, Sandy gently grasped Billy's hand with her bandaged one, her eyes pleading for his understanding. Billy, you felt bad seeing me hurt, right? I know you still care about me. I promise, every day from now on, I'll be there for you just like today. I'll never let you get hurt again. Billy gave a bitter smile. Once upon a time, he'd give anything for Sandy, yet he never bragged about it. Seeing Sandy now, he felt their past years together were like a complete joke. Sandy, give it up. We can't be together. No matter what you do, I won't hesitate for a second. The icy remark felt like a death sentence to Sandy, who stiffly raised her injured arm to touch Billy, but he stepped back, avoiding her reach. She staggered slightly, her eyes turning red with unshed tears. Billy, why? I know I messed up before, but I'm willing to change. Won't you give me just one chance? Have you really moved on so quickly? I don't believe it, Billy. We were together for 3 years. Did you really feel nothing for me at all? Sandy's voice trembled as she asked the question she dreaded the most. Prideful as she was, she never wanted to believe that Billy stayed with her out of obligation rather than love. Faced with her desperate query, Billy's emotions started to surface. Thinking about those 3 years filled with deceit and humiliation, he inhaled deeply. His eyes reddened as he spoke. Sandy, you know about the agreement with your mom, but do you know the kind of lies she fed me to keep me with you? She knew my mom's condition was untreatable from the start, yet she promised me $5 million, convincing me to stay. My best years, 3 whole years. I gave my all, and in the end, what did I get? Billy pounded his chest as he recounted his grievances over the years. Not one of you respected or understood me. You treated me like a servant, like a tool, subjecting me to cold shoulders and disdain. Sandy, as the main culprit, how do you have the right to ask for my forgiveness? Sandy's mouth opened in shock, yet she couldn't utter a word of defense. She had no idea it was her mom who deceived Billy, using deceitful means to tie him to her. At that moment, she realized that apologies and asking for forgiveness were meaningless compared to the harm Billy endured. She and her family unknowingly shattered Billy's heart, piece by piece. Billy turned to leave, and not a single word of plea came from Sandy's lips. Watching his figure fade away, Sandy felt something inside her slip away, seemingly never to return. Desperate, she asked one last question. Billy, over the past 3 years, did you ever love me? Even just a little? Billy paused, recalling their very first meeting. Sandy didn't know it happened before her accident at the hospital. Back then, Billy was a medical student, attending a sponsorship event as a representative of financially struggling students. Sandy was polished and poised, her face holding a gentle, sincere smile. She encouraged him not to feel ashamed of his background and to strive for a better future. Her demeanor was genuine, without any hint of pretension. Billy had left the event feeling inspired, remembering her as beautiful and kind. Their next encounter was in the hospital. Sandy was still the untouchable princess. Even with her injured leg, she possessed a kind of poignant beauty. Spending every day together, how could his heart not be moved? But that budding affection was extinguished before it could bloom, snuffed out by her favoritism toward Gary. The past 3 years, he realized, had left him drained. No, Billy answered firmly, dropping the 2 words and disappearing down the hallway. In a foreign hospital, Sandy could no longer support herself and silently collapsed. As cold tears trailed down her face, she finally understood the meaning of heartbreak. When Billy returned to his apartment, the door across from him swung open quickly. Melody stood there in an apron, smiling warmly. I was waiting for you to get back. Come and eat. Since they'd returned from Iceland, Melody had moved across from him, arguing that same country folks should look out for each other. Billy walked in to find an inviting spread of Chinese food, the aroma filling the room. He knew it wasn't easy to prepare such a meal in Switzerland, especially with him feeling off lately. Melody clearly wanted to cheer him up. Back in their home country, Billy often felt isolated and lost. Yet here, across the globe, in Melody's thoughtful care, he found a sense of belonging. In the following days, Sandy reached out to Billy a couple of times. She told him she hadn't known about her mom's actions and expressed her deep guilt, wanting to make things right. But Billy only shook his head slightly. For him, everything tied to Sandy vanishing from his life was the only true remedy. Sandy's single-entry visa was expiring, forcing her to return home, which allowed Billy to finally breathe a sigh of relief. When it came time for her departure, Betty met Sandy at the airport. She appeared worn and haggard, her eyes bloodshot. Betty just couldn't get it. What was so great about Billy that it made the usually stuck-up Sandy follow him all the way to Switzerland? Every night she'd get a call. It bugged her enough to finally ask, "Sis, where did you stash Gary? He's calling me every night, begging for help." Thinking about Gary brought a hard edge to Sandy's already tired eyes. She hadn't laid a finger on him herself, didn't want to get her hands dirty. She'd just slipped some cash into Gary's ex-wife's company, giving her a leg up. With money in the mix, Gary, always chasing green, naturally crawled back to the ex. She pretended to take him back but brought home different guys every night, flirting right in front of him. The lies Gary had spun were now his reality. Now, Gary was stuck in a mansion overseas, living that high-rolling life he'd always wanted, but without a lick of dignity. Sandy looked at Betty without a hint of emotion. "Where he's at is none of your business. Betty, you're my sister, so I'm telling you, stay away from Gary. If you act like him and start hurting others, I won't hesitate to put you in your place." Betty, taken aback by Sandy's serious look, stepped back, shaking her head in disbelief. "Sis, you've changed. You used to love Gary. It's all Billy's fault. He's such a troublemaker. Next time I see him, I'm gonna set him straight." Sandy stepped forward, her gaze sharpening, intimidating Betty with its intensity. "Sis, what are you doing? I'm your sister." Sandy sighed, shaking her head in disappointment. "Betty, I'm really disappointed in you. I'll arrange for you to transfer to a school in New Zealand. It's quiet there. Take some time and think about things." With that, Sandy walked away from the airport, immune to Betty's yelling. On the day he earned his doctorate, Billy got a call from back home. Dr. Lee had a serious patient whose condition aligned perfectly with Billy's research. He was hoping Billy could come back and assist with the surgery. Without a second thought, Billy agreed. It was the perfect opportunity to apply what he'd learned. As he was about to leave, Melody caught up to him with her suitcase. "I just realized I haven't been home in a while. Guess I'll tag along with you." Billy saw right through her but didn't call her out. He knew she was worried Sandy would cause trouble. The moment Billy touched down back home, Sandy got the alert. She'd kept tabs on anything Billy related these past few years. But ever since she'd overstayed in Switzerland, she'd been banned from entering. So she waited for the day Billy would return. After landing, Billy promptly went to the hospital, teaming up with specialists for a consultation. An intense few days later, the surgery was a triumph. As Billy emerged from the operating room, family and colleagues surrounded him with praise, making his years of hard work feel worthwhile. The surgery was a groundbreaking local success, catching media attention. Dr. Lee dragged Billy into the limelight, proudly introducing him as one of the hospital's brightest young doctors. As Billy was passionately discussing new global findings on the condition, a commotion drew everyone's eyes. A sleek black Rolls-Royce appeared. It was wrapped with white roses, Billy's favorite. Out stepped Sandy, locking eyes with Billy, a deep yearning evident as she approached him. She handed him a small decorated box. "Billy, it's been years, and I can't stop thinking about you. I searched everywhere to craft an identical bracelet. Can we give this another shot?" Billy's face remained impassive, fists clenched, feeling his blood run cold. Cameras caught Sandy's words, snapping furiously. "So Billy's with Sandy, huh? That's headline material. I heard Billy's her ex. Word was they split, 'cause Sandy was all about her first love, and now she's back to win him over." Billy's eyes grew resolute at the gossip. He took the fake bracelet from Sandy, smashing it at their feet. "No matter how close you get, it's not the real one," he stated, looking at Sandy. "I've told you many times. There's nothing left between us. Stop bothering me. You make me sick." And with those words, he walked away without looking back. Sandy, her poise shattered, stared vacantly at the pieces on the ground, feeling each shard in her heart. Disgusting. The love of her life, Billy, found her repulsive. Sandy closed her eyes in embarrassment. Billy rushed out of the hospital, bumping into Melody. "What's wrong?" she asked, there to pick him up. Hearing her, Billy's tightly held emotions broke. He hugged Melody, burying his head on her shoulder, his voice choking with emotion. "I worked so hard to make my mark here, and Sandy ruined it all. Now when people think of me, it's not my skills they recall but this mess with Sandy. I hate her for not letting me move on. Hearing Billy's soft sobbing made Melody's eyes flare up with anger. After getting Billy back to the hotel, Melody headed to the bar and found Sandy. "You bitch!" Melody didn't hesitate, slapping Sandy across the face. Caught off guard while drowning her sorrows, Sandy staggered back. When she turned and saw Melody, she fought back immediately. They ended up brawling, terrifying everyone nearby. No one dared to intervene. Sandy, drunk, wasn't reacting as quickly as Melody, who soon pinned her down. Melody vented her fury on Sandy. "You bitch, do you think you're being romantic? Don't you know you ruined Billy? It took him so much to get his doctorate, and this was his first lead surgery. And you dragged him down with bad press. No one's going to notice he's actually a great doctor." Sandy's struggles froze. She hadn't realized how important this surgery was to Billy. She just wanted to show him she meant well. Words stuck in her throat. Sandy hit her own face hard. Seeing this, Melody stopped too. Before leaving, she looked at Sandy with disdain. "Billy will never accept you. Just give up already." Billy lay in the hotel for 3 days, scared to look at his phone and all the news. When it was time for the patient's checkup, he went to the hospital. Dr. Lee pulled him into the office, concerned about how he was doing. Billy managed a weak smile. "Professor, after thinking it over, I don't want to stay in a local hospital. A hospital in Switzerland offered me a position, and it might be simpler there. I think I'd like to give it a try." Dr. Lee wanted to convince him to stay but sighed, holding back and saying, "Well, staying in Switzerland will keep you away from a lot of local trouble. By the way, I have a student there just like you. She studied in Switzerland. She's 2 years your junior. I'll give you her contact info. After all, you two could support each other in a foreign place." "Thank you, Professor." Billy agreed, typing the number into his phone, but a familiar face popped up on the screen. His breath caught. "Professor, the student you're talking about isn't Melody, is it?" "Yes. Do you know each other?" "Oh right, now that you mention it, I remember she always looked up to you. Back in college, she'd always borrow your papers and notes. Even after you graduated, she asked about you." A realization struck like thunder, detonating something in Billy's heart. Bits of forgotten memories were pulled from his brain, piecing into a full picture. Junior year at the freshman welcome party, he met a junior who kept appearing in his life ever since. In class, the library, the cafeteria, she took every chance to run into him, persistently calling him senior. Back then, Billy was just a poor college student from the countryside, focused on studying hard to advance and repay his mom. He wasn't interested in anything else. After many cold receptions from him, the junior backed off and he soon forgot about it. Those two faces from memory overlapped, wrapping Billy's heart in a warm, gentle current. He suddenly had this intense urge to see Melody. Billy stood up quickly. "Professor, I have to go now. I'll visit you another day." Billy rushed back to the hotel as fast as he could, where Melody was cautiously treating a wound on her face. Bursting into her room, Billy cradled her face, breathless. "Melody, I know about everything you kept hidden. Thank you for quietly being there all these years. Let's be together." The medicine bottle fell from Melody's hand, but inside her, fireworks burst into life. Once together, Billy found out Melody came from a well-known local family corporation. Her family knew about her longtime crush on Billy and were curious about him. So Melody's mother used her birthday party as a chance to invite Billy over. The party was grand, and Sandy was among the invited guests. She brought Susan along, not noticing someone secretly trailing them. As the ballroom doors opened, Melody appeared arm in arm with Billy, drawing everyone's eyes. Melody's parents approached immediately, sizing Billy up with satisfaction and smiles. The harmonious family scene grated on Sandy's nerves. Taking a chance while Billy headed to the restroom, she pulled him onto the balcony. "Billy, I'm sorry. I messed up last time. I didn't know how crucial that surgery was to you. Can you give me another chance to make it up? Please?" Sandy pleaded urgently. Scared Billy wouldn't listen. Billy, seeing Sandy's constant presence, felt a headache coming on. "Enough, Sandy. Every time you say you want to make up, it just ends up hurting me more. I don't need your apologies. Just stay away from me. Okay? As Billy spoke, he lifted his hand, and Sandy noticed the ring on his finger. She grabbed his hand, disbelieving. Who gave you this ring? Melody? Are you two together? Billy pulled his hand away, distancing himself from Sandy. Yes, not only are we together, we're getting engaged. So just give up, Sandy. Sandy was thunderstruck, refusing to believe her Billy could love someone else. No way, no way. Sandy slumped against the railing, drained of all energy, defeated. Billy didn't want to deal with her anymore. As he turned to leave, a shadow lunged at him. Billy, you bastard. Betty raised her hand to slap Billy, but he reacted swiftly, grabbing her wrist and pushing her back. Betty glared at Billy with rage. Because of him, her sister had sent her to some desolate place in New Zealand for 3 years, only covering basic living expenses. Spoiled from a young age, Betty never suffered like that. She seized the chance while Sandy was distracted to sneak back. Seeing Billy speak to her sister like that infuriated her further, and she charged at Billy again, screaming. This time, Billy held nothing back. In the past, Billy cared about Sandy and everyone else, so he tolerated Betty's provocations. But now, he wouldn't tolerate it any longer. Seeing Betty charging at him angrily, he quickly stepped back, making Betty miss her target. Then, while Betty was on the ground trying to get her bearings, he grabbed her hair and slapped her hard twice. Betty, this is me settling the score. Betty tried to struggle, but Billy pushed half of her body over the balcony. Susan ran over in tears, trying to pull Billy away, but he forcefully shoved Susan to the ground as well. The commotion among the three of them caught the attention of people in the banquet hall. Sandy, now aware, separated Billy and Betty. She looked at Billy with concern. Are you okay? Billy adjusted his collar, expressionless, and shook his head. Betty, stomping in anger with her swollen cheeks, complained to Sandy. Sis, he hit me. You care about him more than me? Your own sister. Enough. Sandy silenced the sobbing Betty, her gaze icy. You ran back from New Zealand against our agreement, and now you're causing trouble with Billy? You're beyond bold. From today on, don't call me sister. I don't have a sister like you. Betty tried to argue, but Melody arrived with a group of people. Melody pulled Billy behind her, coldly regarding the three of them. Billy is a part of our family. If you dare to harass him again, don't blame us for being ruthless. Watching Melody and Billy walk away together, Sandy felt an emptiness fill a corner of her heart. She thought of chasing after them, but her phone rang at that moment. Answering it, she heard her father's stern voice. Sandy, are you trying to start a mess again? Melody's family has already called me. Are you trying to bankrupt our family? Sandy froze, standing there lifelessly, unable to process it all for a long time. The next day, a notice of Sandy's dismissal from the CEO position went out to the company, and simultaneously, her father's divorce papers were delivered to Susan. Though he was in Hong Kong, Sandy's father had complete control. Susan cried over the phone, demanding to know why he wanted a divorce. His voice was cold and unforgiving. You raised 2 daughters like this, one disregarding the bigger picture for love, the other hysterical and unreasonable. And you dare question me? Also, if you hadn't lied to Billy back then, would things have turned out this way? They've given me a final warning. If I don't address your harassment of Billy, our partnership ends. Susan shook, clutching the phone. She couldn't grasp why things turned out this way. She just wanted her daughter to move on from the shadows, right? It was just a lie, but it hurt everyone. Susan covered her chest in shame and sobbed with regret. When Billy heard about Sandy's dismissal and Susan being sent to a nursing home, he felt nothing. Susan's lie was the root of the tragedy. Even if she cared for Billy, it was just hoping he'd be good to Sandy. Susan's instinctive behavior when Billy and Betty clashed revealed her true priorities. After contemplating for a while, Melody took his hand. Billy, do you still care about them? Billy shook his head lightly. I stopped caring a long time ago. It's just ironic how someone so mighty fell and had to face the consequences. Melody looked far into the distance, still holding his hand. Hopefully, they'll learn to be kind to themselves and stop weaving their own webs. 2 weeks later, Melody and Billy held a grand engagement party. On the beautifully decorated lawn, Billy in a custom suit exchanged a smile with Melody. Amid cheers, they shared a sip of wine together. They looked like the most dazzling prince and princess, receiving everyone's best wishes. Standing in the back, Sandy's eyes were bloodshot. Her fists clenched tightly, nails digging into her palms without feeling the pain. Her heartache was so strong that physical pain could be ignored. If she could, Sandy wished time would freeze in this moment, even if it meant watching Billy from afar forever. After the engagement party, Billy and Melody said their goodbyes to their parents and were about to return to the hotel to pack. Sandy couldn't stop herself and called him. "Billy, are you leaving for Switzerland tomorrow?" Billy nodded. Him and Melody decided to settle there. "Then I wish you happiness. If life ever gets too hard, you can—" "There won't be such a day," Billy interrupted confidently. Sandy forced a rigid smile, and Billy turned to leave. Suddenly, the loud blare of a horn interrupted, showing a black sports car speeding toward Billy as he crossed the street. Behind the wheel, Betty, with frenzied eyes, shouted, "Billy, you bastard. You made me lose everything. I'm going to kill you." Billy's pupils widened in terror. The next moment, he lost his balance from a push. Looking back, Sandy was already in a pool of blood. Ambulance sirens shattered the silence of the Villa district. Billy stood bloodied at the operating room's door, lost in thought for a long time. Hours later, Dr. Lee emerged saying her life was stable, but her legs were beyond repair. Billy's heartbeat thundered in his ears, forgetting how to breathe. A day later, Billy didn't get on the flight to Switzerland. Before leaving, Melody called him. "Billy, whatever decision you make, I'll respect it." 3 days later, Sandy finally opened her eyes. Upon learning her legs were permanently damaged, she took deep breaths, tears slowly falling. "Billy, I walked because of you before. Now I'm returning that to you." Billy listened, silent for a moment. Eventually, he asked, "Do you have any plans?" Sandy's smile was bitter. "What plans can I have? I'm out of the company, and my legs are gone. I'll just spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair." She couldn't expect Billy to be part of her future anymore. She knew she didn't deserve it. Billy avoided her gaze, not telling her that Betty was arrested for assault and Susan's health had significantly declined. The once powerful Sandy had fallen so quickly, and Billy didn't know whether to be happy or sad. But he knew his entanglement with Sandy and the others was over. It was time for him to leave. Perhaps sensing his thoughts, Sandy spoke first. "Billy, go on. None of this concerns you now. Go peacefully back to Switzerland." Billy looked at Sandy, feeling she was a stranger. Twice she had her legs harmed, but her response was entirely different this time. She was no longer violent, angry, or obsessive, but calm about everything around her. Perhaps, for her, this was the best outcome. Billy sighed with relief. "I'll leave tomorrow. Take care of yourself. Live well." Sandy nodded with a smile. "I will. I won't see you off, but wish you happiness." She said goodbye politely, watching Billy walk out of the hospital room, disappearing from sight. Tears fell from her eyes, closing a chapter of love, hatred, and entanglement. When the plane landed in Switzerland, Billy took a deep breath, leaving behind those tangled memories. He stepped out of the airport, into an embrace that smelled like roses. Beside him was Melody's gentle voice. "Welcome home.